Scientists have captured the bright flash of light that marks the moment of conception when the sperm meets the egg. It seems that it all begins as an explosion of tiny zinc sparks that erupt from the egg at the exact moment of conception, and it's never before been captured. It's seen now in a bright flash of light that scientists have managed to capture for the first time ever, and it comes across as fireworks seen on film. Well, they have seen this phenomenon occur in other animals before, but this is the first time they've ever managed to capture it in humans. Now, Professor Teresa Woodruff from Northwestern University, who was part of this amazing discovery, she said to see the zinc radiate out in a burst from each human egg was breathtaking. So what we're talking about here is the zinc spark that happens at the moment when the sperm meets the egg, when conception happens. Some are saying it's the start of life. That's obviously another debate that I'm sure will ensue. But they first discovered this zinc spark just 5 years ago in mice. And now this is the first time that they've seen the zinc spark radiating out from each human egg. And what this means for the future of things like IVF technology, for example, is that you can see when conception has occurred in the best possible way. And incidentally, some flashes are brighter than others. And what they are deducting from this is that the brighter the flash, the better the egg, a good egg or a bad egg. So you can basically tell when you've got a good quality reaction that's happened, when perhaps genetic mutations may not have been passed over. And so you can really use it to weed out the good eggs from the bad eggs. So obviously this will have huge implications on the future of IVF technology, and not to mention the debates we will continue to have, I'm sure, forevermore, over when the moment of life begins.
Yeah, okay, well, regarding that, I mean, I think this is interesting, first and foremost, and I'd love to see like a video of that, if that even exists yet, or whenever they release it, I would love to see it, because that visual looks pretty cool. But at the same time, you know, I just think it's simply part of the biological process. I don't think this points us in any direction whether or not this is actually where life begins, just because there's a flash of light. What are we saying? Like that's like the soul or something like that, just because it's a flash of light. You know, a lot of things happen. I'm sure there's a lot of things that we can capture on film here. But I don't think just because one is a flash of light that represents life.
Sure, we have to remember this is a chemical reaction. We're talking about zinc here. We're talking about fireworks. We're talking about energy from a sperm and an egg going in and creating a different type of energy, a transformation. So yes, this argument will continue to happen in terms of pro-life, pro-choice, these sort of things. But what they will definitely be able to do from this is be able to tell us a lot more about what goes on at that moment of conception. It's been so hard to document these events so far, and there's still very little known about what actually happens at that moment of fertilization. So even just to see that there's this explosion of zinc and these fireworks of light, and to be able to deduce that some of these explosions are brighter than others, which means that the conception has gone well or not so well. It's very important when you think about IVF treatments and creating life in the future.
Yeah, certainly. And you know, another thing that I'd like to look into also is how this story is going to be worded, how it's going to be covered in certain parts of the world, because, you know, that's very particular, and when you get down to it, I mean, the way that it might be phrased in one country versus another. I mean, look at this country where abortion, for example, is something that's very hotly debated. I'm sure a lot of publishers here would be reluctant to call this, you know, the beginning of life, because there's no one here trying to take that right of abortion away from us, right? Like the way that we are here in the U.S. So in the U.S. we might be very careful to word this a certain way. Meanwhile, in other countries that, you know, enjoy freedom of abortions without any imminent threat of it being taken away at any moment, they might be able to say whatever they want about it. Hey, maybe this is when life begins, because there's no debate still happening in that country. They've moved on, they're past that. But here, it's still a touchy subject. We're still in the midst of fighting for that right even. even though it is still legal.
Sure.
In a lot of states, it's not.
This study was published in Scientific Reports on April 26th, and I'm sure, written in an unbiased way. In terms of how media in different countries will interpret this story, it will be very interesting to see. But what we can definitely tell and definitely say now from this story is that we've captured for the first time the bright flash of light that happens when the sperm meets the egg. It's a zinc explosion, and we can certainly deduce from this whether or not a healthy baby will be as a result of this chemical reaction according to how bright that flash of light is.